driving their kids, particularly through sports, you know. You got O.J. Simpson. Oh, he can't be guilty. He's an American hero, you know. We were just about to put his face on the $3 bill. And then, you know, this Ray Caruth guy, this NFL wide receiver, just charged with murdering his pregnant girlfriend. You know, people, did they ask why? Why'd he do it? You know, no one cares why, you know. Ray Lewis, this NFL linebacker, charged with a double homicide in Atlanta on Super Bowl Sunday, the most violent day of the year, with the most expensive commercial time, of course. He's out on bail. You know, he's charged with murdering 2 people, and he's out on bail. You know, you got Charles Manson sitting in prison for conspiracy, sentenced to death, and you got this other guy walking the streets because he's a sports hero. One story that that really struck me and got me thinking about this was a few years ago. There was this teenage punk rocker kid who was run down in an IHOP parking lot by a white jock and his girlfriend in Dad's Cadillac. And this boy died because he looked different, and he was run down by a drunk piece of shit that hated him and had always picked on him. And it was a situation where you've got 6 kids who, you know, got their noses pierced, and you've got 30 jocks who are the popular kids at school, and they're picking on them. They're calling them fags. They're calling them whatever. And so this thing happens. This guy kills this kid and is clearly guilty. You know, his guilt is admitted. And guess where this all-American athlete is? He's in college. You know, the jury felt the punk rocker deserved to die because he looked the way he did. And not only was he killed, but then in the trial, he was killed again because they, you know, criticized his lifestyle because he didn't, you know, wear a Tommy Hilfiger shirt and khaki pants, you know. And then the killer was even applauded at graduation because he was a football star. The American dream, strong, normal. He never spent a day in prison. So who do we blame? You know, everybody wants to say, you know, too much violence today, you know. Did anyone forget about the Civil War or the Bible or Shakespeare? You know, violence isn't brand new. And I don't even think seeing violence is the problem. I think is a more serious problem that seeing violence as a solution to solve a problem is what is sending a bad message to kids growing up. You know, even going back to a Western, the hero kills the villain, saves the day. Children grew up in World War II, and they learned that total violence was the answer. And I think that that's where, you know, a dying culture began, and a dying culture kills everything that it touches. You know, so these kids grew up learning this. They pass these values down with pride. We won the war, but you know, damn that Hitler, genocide and all those terrible things he did. You know, forget if you know, we dropped the bomb, but that's different. You know, we're Americans and we believe in God. So that's where they kind of create what I like to call the God Band-Aid. You know, that's when you got a problem, you stick the God Band-Aid on. You know, my record's dirty and violent, and but I just won a Grammy, so you know, I want to thank God. Or you know, well, someone just killed my daughter, and they're like, oh, well, it's okay, she's with God now. Oh, okay. Or you know, you killed somebody. But I believe in God now, so, you know, it's okay. Then all the other people with the God Band-Aids see that. And they go, oh, he's like us. He's okay. Let's let him go. You know, so bad parents make bad kids. You know, that's the way I look at it. That's why I asked the question. You know, I put this up on my website. I said, is adult entertainment killing our children, or is killing our children entertaining adults? And I think that's kind of the question we got to ask ourselves today. And you have to ask yourself that every time you watch the hungry cameras at the crime scene, or at the funeral, or at the plane crash, interviewing the victims, you know, 24-hour footage, watching the guy blow his brains out on the LA freeway, you know. You know, I'm in a square right now. You're looking at me. I'm looking at myself in a monitor. You know, we sit in front of the TV, and we are the TV. We're a copy staring at a copy, at a copy, at a copy. It's like the guy on Jerry Springer who is always looking at the monitor to see if he sees himself. And that becomes a loop because you see it and you see yourself again and again and again. So, you know, eventually it's a Xerox that's so degenerated we don't know which came first. And that's where we are. That's what I'd like to leave you with.